Hello and welcome to my Patreon page, I guess. I'll be honest with you. I'm playing with my video setup and I wanted to do a video to kind of test it, and there's been this little section on Patreon that says insert introduction video for a while now, and I've been meaning to record it, but I don't really know what a Patreon introduction is. Are you thinking about subscribing? Are you already subscribed? I don't know. So I'm just going to do a general what is my Patreon page. And we'll see how that goes, I guess. Let me know if it's terrible, I guess. Yeah, my name's Peter Howard, Pahowdy on Twitter. I'm a senior writer, currently dating myself with my SBF 11 shirt here, for DynastyLeagueFootball.com. I've written a bunch of articles for a bunch of other sites, but that's my home base. I do rankings over there and everything else for Dynasty Fantasy Football, but I tend to stray just fantasy football in general. I do a lot of stuff that helps, I think, me understand lots of different types of fantasy football, like DFS and redraft as well. But that's my main focus: dynasty football, fantasy football. So yeah, that's who I am. That's what I do. I mainly try to process the game and find edges and do better in fantasy football using data and numbers. If you're here and you don't know that already, that's surprising. Let me know how you got here, but that's mainly how I work. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, that's what my Patreon page is about. Now, if you're thinking about subscribing, I would say you're in the Patreon for any amount. That's not a typo on those tiers. I don't have tiers. I thought it would look better if I actually set up the tiers, because that's how Patreon typically works. But I hope to get support just for the work I'm doing, and hopefully the helpful work I'm doing for Dynasty Fantasy Football. But I'm not looking to charge people for this article or this video, or hey, if you pay, I'll give you data. If you like the work, please consider donating, because I'm donating myself enough of my time at this point that it's becoming obscene if I'm not getting money for it. And so the Patreon has been, over the last couple of years, one of the main reasons that's helped me keep digging, and also help fuel the research, to be honest with you, because we're at a point where we're actually behind some paywalls to get some different data and data in a better order, so that we can look further and find more, and also just maintain what we've already got. So Patreon's literally paying for me to be behind those paywalls, and yeah, a little goes to my time, and at this point it's kind of necessary, or I can't justify it anymore. But that's no pressure. Look, some people subscribe for a month and leave, some people pay for the year and leave, some people donate all sorts of different amounts, and I'm grateful for all of it. If you just want to say thanks and donate and get back out, I'm good with it. I'm not trying to get you to pay for data or pay for the stuff I do, but I do try and make things some Patreon only to say thank you, because they really are fueling me at this point to keep going. So, it's kind of an honor system. And I am and have been at the stage where $1 a month for fantasy, it's a free hobby, man. I don't need to pay. I've been there. I am there still currently at many different times in my life, and so that's why it's the same for everyone. Whether you can actually afford a monthly payment, or you just want to do it once to say thank you and I have to go pay my bills now, that's fine too. That's the reason I have it set up that way. Just in case you were thinking about going for the higher tier, because you'll get more. Maybe at some point, but no. Pay or don't pay. What is reasonable? What you think is reasonable. In fact, I'd be happier to get you for less. And little stock tip: when you go to donate, it asks you how much you want to pay. You select a tier, but then it says how much. You can pick any amount. I'm pretty sure it does it in dollars, but if 50 cents is your thing, go for it. I don't mind. I'd rather you go lower and stick around, because the main part from actually continuing to justify me doing it, the main part of the Patreon is I like the people that come in here, man. We've got a Discord now. I have great conversations. They share their data. They share what their research is. And I want more people around. It's been a lot of fun, and not just the little bit of money to justify the time, but also the quote-unquote community we're building, I guess, is a big motivating factor. And also a big reason why I'm continuing to enjoy playing Dynasty Football. Without people, data analysis, I just probably wouldn't bother. And the people that come in here tend to be awesome, and that's what I want. So that's what the Patreon page is. Just in case you're wondering, that's what it is. I guess, yeah. I'll show you some basics of what I do around here. Why not? That seems like an introduction thing. So, yeah, the first thing is the college database, which you may or may not know about. It's pinned to my Twitter timeline. It's also pinned to my Patreon timeline once you get on the actual page. And that just links to the Google Sheet that hopefully everyone knows, with links to other databases. Now, notice I'm hosting all those links on Patreon, although many of them are, you don't have to be a Patreon subscriber to get here, to click on the link or go to that Patreon page, because again, I'm trying to just help and be a valuable part of the Dynasty community in general. And so again, it's where it goes to support, not paying for actual content or paying for actual data. It's just not the way I'm built. So all those are the links. They link to Patreon pages, most of which you can click on whether you subscribe or not. But there are a couple I keep behind the whatever you pay paywall to say thank you to those Patreons. Now, the one of those is my NFL database, which is a seasonal database, which goes all the way back to 2000, all data for all players since 2000 in the NFL. And it's listed on a per game basis and a seasonal basis. I also have the weekly database, which I put out free for everyone in season. But the history of it, which currently goes back to 2018, we're hoping to push it back further into 2017-16, but it's been a bit of a chore. So the weekly database you may already have seen. I have all of that stored for a history of it. So if you want to go week by week, we have that data as well. The Red Zone database is currently Patreon only, I think. That's just a history of Red Zone touches and targets and some stats we've calculated from it. The basic database and then the college database, which are these last two links, are the ones that are always perma-free, as it were. They're just stuff I'm doing with other people in the community to try and help people profile players or work on their basic understanding of what's going on in the NFL and those stats. So yeah, go check those out if you kind of want an idea of what's in my sheets, because I tend to structure things relatively similarly through each of them. So that's the first thing. But again, the subscription to Patreon isn't for those. I'm doing all that anyway. There's a couple there that I find really useful. The one I use mainly for my NFL work, which is behind the paywall. But again, hit me up if you just want to see it, because I'm not paying for access. It's kind of an ease of access for those who subscribe to the Patreon, to be honest with you. The other thing is we have a Discord, which is here, with lots of different chat rooms. I'm still learning Discord. It's full of everyone that's subscribed to Patreon at all. In there I have a database links where I permalink all the databases just so you don't have to go to the one particular sheet to find those links. So I think that's handy. You can also ask questions, let me know when things are wrong, or tell me when you want things added. If I can add them, I'm happy to do it. Also, there's just a whole bunch of people in here having conversations about fantasy football, dynasty football, redraft, DLF, DFS. And sometimes asking me questions, or I ask them questions. I've learned a lot in Discord myself, so it's really just a fun space, and it's been one of the biggest things I've gotten from the Patreon at all. It's the fact that we're all in here talking about fantasy football all the time. It's really fun. It keeps me motivated and also helps me enjoy, because some of it is just work, some of it is just hard work, and the Discord makes it fun and enjoyable. So we have the Discord. I also do, depending if it's in season or off season, I do regular YouTube content. That's just on YouTube, so everyone has access to it, but I will post them on Patreon as well. Every now and again, I've been asked to make Patreon-only videos to talk about a specific subject, and I post those. I do write regular articles for DLF and occasionally other places as well. A few books have asked me to write chapters and stuff, and I've done that, and I've made a Patreon-only version copy of those, so you can always read what I'm up to. In addition to that, about once a month, at least once a month, I tend to write like mini articles, which is just something interesting that I found that I've added to my arsenal of knowledge about fantasy football, and I'll write that up. I'll just write up whatever it is. I don't have word limits for it or anything, but it can vary between 500 and 1,000 words, I guess, if it matters. Just something interesting that I found, and I go ahead and I share it with Patreon. So stuff that I'll end up repeating on podcasts or anything else. Oh, have a podcast, Dynasty Crossroads, check it out. Should probably have scripted this video out. Anyway, so that's most of what we get up here on the Patreon. I will say that most of the people in the Discord ask me questions sometimes. I'm like, I just posted that on Patreon, and a lot of them don't even use a Patreon page, which is why I've been a little, not lax, but what's the word? I'm not militant about it. There isn't, I do this and I do this and you get all this. I do as much as I can, and I do those things that I just mentioned as a minimum. And sometimes I'll add some fun stuff because I decided to write something or create some database or chart as a one-off, or I write an article just because I'm feeling like it, and it makes an extra article for that month or whatever. It's because most people enjoy the Discord, they enjoy the databases, and they want to chat about fantasy football. And occasionally, when they have a question, I'm like, I wrote about that. Then I can link them back to what I already posted on the Patreon, and they can read it at their leisure, whether they're behind that fantasy site's paywall site or not. They can at least see the parts that I did of it. If it was a collaboration or if there are other elements of it, they can at least see whatever I'm referring to when I say I've already done that. It's on the Patreon. Here's the link. And so it's useful for that as well. Also, I guess another way to DM me, there are private messages on Patreon like there are on Twitter. You can DM me. And if I know you're a patron, I'm extra attentive when I'm answering. No, anyone can DM me at any time on Twitter. On Patreon, obviously, you have to be linked to me on Patreon to contact me through there. But you also have the Discord anyway, so I'm freely available to anyone that gets in the Discord. I have asked the patrons if they want to make the Discord public, so anyone can come in that's interested, and they kind of like having it as a little thing, you know, anyone that's through the page, and I kind of agree, I kind of get it, and so far it's just people that subscribe to my Patreon get in the Discord. But anyway, you can contact me through Patreon as well, and like literally I want to help out everyone in fantasy football any way I can, so I will do that with everyone, but I can't deny that there's an extra pep in my step when I get a Patreon message or a message from someone that is from Patreon. It's not like I have better answers for them or not, but I really do appreciate it. I've described people that subscribe to my Patreon as heroes, financiers, gods, anything. I call you whatever you want. Because, again, I would really like to expand how much of my life is actually funded by fantasy football, because that would be a dream. But for right now, it's just, if I'm going to keep going, yeah, you can't invest this much hours. I have a family, I have a job, I have several jobs. I can't continue to justify more and more time without at least something. Because the time is better spent at some point for real life. I hate it. I don't sell people's attention. You'll notice my YouTube videos don't have adverts on it. My Patreon, my podcast doesn't have sponsorships. It's not because that's wrong. It's just not my speed. If you're paying attention to me for a second, it's our system now. I'm fully justified to sell that attention, to sell an ad. But if I mention something that's because I'm using it or I actually am really excited about you maybe checking it out because I think it's helpful or useful, and that doesn't bleed into subscriptions for, you know, this new cleaning product or whatever, and so I guess I'd say that. That's another Patreon promise. I have a Patreon so they don't have to engage in any of that. And I'm not going to say your attention. It's not even your attention. I'm just looking to have conversations with people about fantasy football. And if you're subscribing to Patreon, you're literally helping to make that possible. So even for considering it, if this is a considering page, no idea. I'd just like to say thank you. Ask me any questions you might have about it. And also let me know how I could improve it or do more or do something that would make you interested in subscribing outside of being not an annoying little nerd, because that's kind of built in. But yeah, thanks again for watching this video, wherever it goes or whatever it does. And let me know what you think about the setup, because I changed it around a little bit. I got a little light back there. I'm trying. Anyway, thanks very much. And yeah, welcome to Patreon, or not. However you choose, I guess.